So let me bring our special guest because I know he's backstage and he's been waiting, and we've been running our mouth, man. So we have the guy from CBSI, man, the cover tunes, the cover fire man himself. And you barely talked. You did.
You said
man, Mike Morello. What is going
on? How's it going, gentlemen?
Yes, what's going on, Mike?
Thanks for having me on.
Definitely, man. I apologize for running my mouth, man. Just doing our thing. You know what I mean?
Man, you got to do your thing.
Yeah, definitely, man. But that's cool. Definitely get to listen, man. Me and Mike right here, we've been talking so much on IG, man. Learned a lot about my man Mike, man. Not only does he know good taste in comics, make with covers, but my man's a sneakerhead, man. He's a sneakerhead. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So, he hit me up with posting my when we do show and tell, show the sneakers, but when I put some Jordans up and he hit me up and he was like, "Oh my god, amazing!" it was pretty dope. A nice long conversation about that.
Yeah, we did.
But yes, my man Mike, man, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate that, man. And I want to get to know you a little bit more now that we see face to face. You know what I'm saying? Us here in East Sports, we want to get to know you, and we want to know how you started with CBSI.
So back in the G Plus days, when that's basically all anybody did, and there was no real websites and stuff, I was just kind of a lurker. I didn't really talk much on there, just kind of soaked in info from people because I was just getting back into collecting. And it had been a while. I'd been out of it for a little bit. I'd sold off most of my collection and just kept some of my childhood books, and that was it. Yeah. And then when I was getting back in, I kind of was feeling out some of the groups, and I really, really liked these guys. And it's all of a sudden an idea just hit me just to post into the G Plus. And at the time, the site was launching. And it was the Cover Tunes idea, but it was a much more stripped down version than what it is now. And it was just kind of like it was my annoyance with spec, and books just skyrocketed and then plummeting, and then people bitching and moaning about are you pumping and dumping? Are you and like I didn't want to hear that conversation. And I just said, you know what? There's a ton of beautiful books out there that everybody ignores that you can find in your dollar bins. And I just started to post it on G Plus, not thinking anybody would give a shit. And then Ben C over at CBSI said, "Dude, this is good content. I think our readers would really like this." And so the fourth issue, so to speak, we launched it as an article. This was a little over, I guess it was just close to 4 years ago now. And then it was kind of sporadic at first, and then I was sort of clear sailing. I'm just about to be at 3 years straight. We're at issue 152 right now, so in a couple of weeks I'll be at 156. I'll be at the 3-year mark, and I've never taken a week off. I love doing them; they're really fun. Hard not to duplicate covers, but that's how I got into it in CBSI. And then there was sort of a lull during COVID, when people weren't able to write articles or be as involved. And we had this thing called the Wednesday one, which is still going. It's back now, but it had taken a kind of a hiatus. So a few of us tried to figure out a way to kind of get some of that content back without stepping on the toes of the guy who writes it. So Chris Nelms took over one piece of it. He did the NCPD, the pull list. Yeah. And then I did Cover Fire, which was just what I thought was the prettiest covers for the week that weren't incentives. So like if I was the guy who wasn't going to do keys and incentives, I was going to keep that going. So basically anything that was an A or a B cover, kind of like a cover price cover for the week that I thought was pretty, then that's what I wanted. So those are the two articles I write. I do a lot of interviews for the site as well. So if you click on my name, it'll show you like some of the interviews that I've done there. And I started out, I was just kind of like ballsy. I figured, well, I mean, the worst these people could say is no. And then I kind of rolled into Jenny Fristen and Donnie Cates and Clayton Crane and some of those guys. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I wasn't an interviewer. I was just like, I want to talk to these people and I'll record it. Fuck it.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's been fun to do the interviews too. And so now I do the 3 Comic Money show, which is now, we call it the 3CM, which is the Comic Creator Chat.
I've seen that, yeah.
And we just kind of Pete and Chris and I rap with creators every week or every 2 weeks or so, and it's been really fun through COVID to do some of that stuff too. So.
Oh, it's so badass, man. That's dope, man. Awesome. And And real quick, not to go back what you was talking about. I know you do the cover fire. The man thing covers, man. Don't put those, man. Those man thing covers don't deserve it.
I heard you say that the other day, and straight up, I hate themed covers.
Yeah,
I really hate them, and I really rarely pick them. But in this case, I really like that cover, man. I'm sorry, that Gamora was hot.
It's all good, man. But before we asked more questions. You did make me buy a book from when we did the tribute to Frank Thorne, man.
Yeah.
You made me buy a book. It hasn't come in yet. It's sometime this week. I'll show and tell next week. But this book is amazing when I show it. Obviously, it's a Red Sonja cover.
Yes.
But yeah, man, when you do that, listen, when it comes to this show, man, either my brothers over here, Doom or Josh or Gomez or James, we always do covers of the week and they're showing us, and then that just entices me to buy. And I just want to say thank you. That's all I gotta say.
Absolutely. I mean, we do the same thing on the site on CBSI. We're constantly MFing each other because I'll read Pete's Dollar Bin Digging, or I'll read Adam's Wednesday, or I'll read whatever article or Chris's, and I'm like, damn it, man, I thought I was going to get away with not buying a DC book this week. Son of a bitch. Like, trying to save money here. You're killing me. You're killing me. So, yeah, it happens to all of us. And then they bitch and moan to me for doing the same thing to them. But it's fun. It's a nice way to collect, and it keeps it cheap. Because, look, we're all buying big keys, too. We're all trying to save up money and trade up and do the things so we can get the books we really want. But in the meantime, we got to keep it fun. And it's hard to keep it fun when you're tossing $100 down on every book you buy, So
that's true.
When they can be $1 books and $5 books and stuff like that, it keeps it fun and exciting. And that's what I like to try to do.
Definitely, man. Broski, you have a question?
What made you get into comics? Like, because I know that us as hobbyers, like, this is something we do besides work and everything. What made you want to collect comics, and who was your best, your overall character that you like reading?
Okay, yeah. I mean, when I first started as a kid, I was reading Batman, but that wasn't really me as a collector. That was just me that's what I can get off the spinner rack, back in the day. And then I took a break for a really long time until my brother started to read comics, and he makes me look like an idiot child. He's the smartest person I know on this planet. And he started reading a lot of the Vertigo stuff, a lot of the Neil Gaiman and that kind of stuff, Sandman specifically. And so I got back in my mid-teens, I guess, reading Sandman and Hellblazer and that kind of stuff. Sort of House of Mystery, House of Secrets, Books of Magic, all that dark, sort of like Justice League dark Vertigo stuff. And that really got me interested in, and I was also really interested in English. I'm an English teacher. My day job is English. I teach and stuff. So it was a nice tie-in to, and don't get me wrong, I like the superhero stuff too, but I really liked the idea of something that was a little bit more highbrow. And it wasn't me being arrogant, thinking I was smarter than anyone else. It just enticed me. I thought the stories were so much better. And I thought they could get away with a little bit more adult content, and it was just more entertaining for me. So that's where I really was, latching on to comics, that and Star Wars. So I was an enormous Star Wars fan since I was a little kid. And so I was always collecting all the Marvel Star Wars runs and all the Dark Horse stuff. And so now everybody's salivating over all those Dark Horse books, all these crazy, like that Ahsoka one of 1,000 or one of 1,000, the, Dark Horse 100 book.
Yeah.
It's one of those books where it wasn't, I latched onto it and was like a $50 book. It was, and that's not to make people jealous. It's just one of those things where I wanted the book anyway. I don't care if that thing ends up being worth $30,000. Doesn't matter to me. So between, Hellblazer is fantastic. That and Sandman, I think, really, really great still, really great read still. And the Star Wars stuff was really more so like if Sandman and Hellblazer were my dinner, the Star Wars stuff was my dessert. Because it wasn't that great. A lot of it wasn't written all that great, but those are the two things I was doing. And then I took a really long break and I sold off a lot of my chaff. I moved to New York City a couple of times. I moved back and forth to New York City. Joker and I were talking about Brooklyn and where I moved. I'm in Nashville now. But during that whole sort of, What's that?
I said lucky bastard.
Oh yeah,
I've heard good things about Nashville.
I love Nashville. Man.
It's a great city. It's a really great town. And I've been lucky to live in 2 great towns. Brooklyn was great too. I miss Brooklyn. And I really like it here. So it's it's kind of like catch-22 sort of thing.
It's different. There's 2 big different places, bro. Brooklyn,
it really is,
and Nashville. Yeah, it is.
Nashville's better.
Don't
say about Brooklyn, bro. Listen, don't be hating on Brooklyn, man. Right?
I don't know, man. Brooklyn's pretty dope.
It has nothing to do with hating. Nashville's just that much better.
Nashville's cool.
I like Cali. I'm cool where I'm at.
Nashville's a great place. I'm really glad we moved here. But in that time frame, in that like decade, where I was basically in New York, I didn't collect any comics. So when I came here, the people here are so nice, and some of the mom and pop shops were really great. And I developed some really nice rapport with a couple of the shop owners. Started to grab up some of the comics that were kind of bubbling up because of the early MCU stuff, just for fun. I didn't really think a whole lot of it. And then that just snowballed into nonsense. And now we're at 30 long boxes now. So,
wow, 30.
It's a lot. Man. It's a lot.
Are there a lot of shops in Nashville?
There are actually a lot of shops, strangely enough. There's one group called The Great Escape. There's 4 of those. And then there's 2 places called Outer Limits. There's Starbase 1552. There's Comic City 2. There's like a dozen good comic shops. And what's cool about it is they all kind of do something a little different. Like one's the gaming store, one's the trade paperback store, one's the back issue place, one's the weekly Wednesday Warrior place. Yeah. And the one place gets the variants, all the other places don't. So they all kind of have their little niche, which is really nice. So you don't ever really feel like you're screwing one shop with the other. It's just like the day I want toys, I go to this place. The day I want my trade paperbacks, I go there. And it's nice. You can kind of support everybody. And then as a result, there's kind of room for all the shops in town, which is great.
Wow. I'm not going to lie, not to go off topic here, but I've been thinking about moving to Nashville for a long time. And one of the things that's been keeping me here is just comic book resources and just the abundance of comics in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is where a lot of it started, but I'm just one of the main things in my life, or not in my life, one of the main concerns I have about moving to Nashville is having a smaller pool to draw from, almost in a way. So that's kind of good to hear that there are a lot. No lie. I kid you not, man.
Yeah, listen, my man Nick says different. He said you ain't going nowhere, Josh.
That's it, brother.
That's it. Brother said so. That's it.
I mean, in comparison to other places in the country, there's an abundance of shops here. But when we're talking, the difference between here and, say, New York City or something like that, it's not. I mean, there's not a contest. Even if you're going to drive out of the city to Massachusetts, Connecticut, and those places, you've got a lot more shops than we'll ever have here. But, we're close to a lot of cities, too. You're close to Atlanta. You're close to Huntsville, Alabama. You're not that far away from Kansas City. You're pretty close to Columbus, Ohio. You're only 3-4 hours away from a lot of cities. So if you want to just go to Louisville one day, just hit it. It's not going to it's a day trip. So while Nashville itself may not have what you want, you're in this weird hub that allows you to go to a lot of places and go to a lot of shows too, which is really nice.
Okay.
Well, whenever the hell we get cons back, I mean, shit.
I know, right? Hey, Lelo, he wants to meet a country girl. That's exactly what Josh needs. He needs
nothing wrong with that, bro. Nothing wrong with that.
Man, I'm telling you, for everyone that hasn't been down on, oh my God, Broadway.
Yeah.
Different world, man.
Broadway's fun. It's basically Nashville's Beale. It's like their Beale Street. So when they remodeled it, they kind of modeled it after the old Memphis Beale Street. It's pretty good. It's pretty amazing. It can be a raucous night down there.
Yeah.
Locals don't like to go down there much because it's a lot of tourists, but it's fun. It's fun. You want to hear some good music and get drunk, that's the place to go. And meet the ladies. That's definitely a place to go.
Well, sweet, man. It's a fun city. You got any more questions, broski or Josh, man?
Yeah. Have you ever met Kazi Zoo?
Kazi Zoo.
No. So wait a minute. So you started selling off your collection when you were how old?
In my mid to late teens.
Okay. So what is the most prized book in your collection now?
That's what I was going to ask.
The one that's worth the most, or the one that's worth the most to me?
Both of you.
My most valuable book's my FF1.
Okay.
Although soon that might be X-Men one. My X-Men one might be worth more than it. I don't know if you guys have been watching the trends on X-Men one, but they're getting neck and neck. So those two are kind of tied. I also have a high grade Hulk 181, which is probably getting pretty close to those two. But most prized book, honestly, it's going to sound ridiculous, but it's the only key I kept from my younger days, and that's my Sandman 1. I have my my childhood Sandman 1. So that's a book that's never going anywhere no matter what.
It's a nice book.
Yeah, definitely. I have a nice
I tried selling one of my 298s today, and nobody bought it. Nobody wants that book, man. Keeps going up too. They're gonna want it soon.
They're gonna want it.
Yeah,
they're gonna want that and number 8. They're gonna want them both.
Yeah.
Lucifer get no love, man. I like Lucifer.
Well, Lucifer already did its thing because I mean that show's still going.
Listen, man. Like I came upon the Sandworld universe through that show because I was a big fan of that show, and then I've come to realize that the first appearance was in that run, and I was like, oh shit, so it made me go deep into the Neil Gaiman run of Sandman. So that introduced me to Neil Gaiman, So
yeah. And for those that haven't read it, they just released an Audible series where Neil Gaiman narrates.
Yep,
and it's really good.
So many.
Funny. This comment right here by Mac B. When Josh mentioned Nashville, I thought of Reese Witherspoon in Home Sweet Alabama. Funny story. So when I was in Nashville, the last time I was in Nashville, Reese Witherspoon actually owns a shop in Nashville that's like literally like where my aunt and uncle live. Like you could hit it with a rock. I was walking down the street one day, and she comes out of her store on the other side of the street. So that's kind of funny, actually. She's
pretty great. She actually, and knowing, working at a school, the cool thing about her is she all of a sudden during COVID, she just said, guys, requisition whatever you need for schools. You need paper, you need pens, you need computers, you need whatever. You just send in your requisition and I will pay for it.
Wow.
For the whole metro area. She's very much the young version of Dolly Parton, who's also a huge supporter of things local here.
Yeah.
I have a 2-year-old son, and I get a free book in the mail from Dolly every single month for my baby. So it's pretty dope. She's, the two of them. I mean, those kinds of people really love where they're from, and they want to keep their money here, and they want to, they want to help out the people. So it's really cool to see that. Reese is cool. So whether you like her or not in the movie she does, she's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've never met her.
That's pretty dope, man. And my man Run the Comics, what's up, man? What's going on? Yeah, Broski, you have a question?
Yeah. No, not that I think of this. So, go ahead, Joke. If you
do you teach? You said you teach English. Do you integrate any comics into that?
I do actually. I do try to do that. Yep. Especially with my non-AP kids that struggle to read and stuff, and they're struggling to find stuff that interests them. I like to kind of turn them on to some of that stuff too. I try to find out what their interests are first. Also depends on how old they are, and I'm not going to be recommending Saga to a 15-year-old, but at least not if I want to keep my job anyway. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I do. I bring as much of that stuff in as I can. And of course, there's some of the pat answer ones like Mouse, and Sandman's another one that people like to talk about. And there's plenty of others like that. But yeah, I try to do that from time to time. And I've got comic posters all over my room, and these kids all know I'm a nerd. I mean, I got a Star Wars tattoo for God's sake, and there's no hiding it,
Yeah.
And they like talking to me about the shows. I also teach cinema studies, and I also try to get like a MCU movies and some of the shows into the curriculum too. Not only because it's relevant, but because they like it,
Do you keep up with like new books? Do you read any new books that's coming out weekly or?
Yeah, I do. I read probably about a dozen titles regularly. I try to pick up some indies and check them out, but I love Something is Killing the Children right now, Department of Truth, Monstrous, Saga if we ever get it back. From Marvel, I'm always reading Venom, Conan, and Thor. I read Batman. I read Justice League Dark. New Mutants from time to time. I kind of go in and out of that one. But yeah, I read probably a good dozen. I was reading, you know what, and you'll laugh. I was reading Red Sonja, the Mark Russell run, which just ended. He just ended his run at number 24, and it was excellent. And I'm a little nervous now with the new writer. I hope it's still good. But so that's my one Dynamite book that I'm the one guy who actually reads Dynamite books.
I think here's number 2 right here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, Morello.
Sweet. You read Vampy? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From time to time.
Obviously, we buy them for the covers because they're incredible. Although I wish we didn't get 72 covers every week. But
yeah, right.
But the covers are good. What are you going to do? But yeah, the Red Sonja series was really, really good, and I'm a little disappointed that Russell moved on. Hopefully, it's going to still be good.
What do you think about these indie books now that's going on?
I'm looking at like Prices of Canto and what that's doing right now, and books like that. I think I don't know. I think it's good overall, as long as it doesn't get too gimmicky like it did in the 90s.
Yeah.
If they keep the content good and they keep the story good, and these things that get optioned actually get made and they're quality, then I think it's fantastic for the comic industry. And I also think it's great for the collector because most of those are going to be low print runs. It's not going to be like hundreds of thousands of copies. Well, I mean, unless you're talking Berserker, but it's not going to be hundreds of thousands of copies. And even that, right? Even the Berserker move isn't the worst move in the world. You get a guy as popular as Keanu, and you get new heads in the shops, and you get some more money flowing into the hobby. It's maybe bad in the long run, but I think in the short run right now, especially during COVID when shops need money, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. But again, it starts to feel a little on the gimmicky side, and I worry about that a little bit. But overall, I think it's good. I think indies are starting to overtake the big guys.
Yeah,
I would even say big 3 because I'm going to put Image in there as a big 3.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that companies like Boom are starting to dethrone Image right now. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's too far behind. If DC and Marvel continue to make the bad decisions that they're making, I think that there's some room for an indie to kind of take their slot. Especially with distribution changing now and people moving away from Diamond and stuff. And, a lot of Kickstarters and all those kinds of things are really kind of stirring the pot a little bit in a good way. They get good quality books to fans, and I think that that's really at the end of the day what we really want, right?
I feel like the one thing that like prevents like one of them from doing that is just having like a joined universe, which it's very hard for them to do because all these books aren't really like superhero books, so to speak. But like if they ever came up with some sort of like a shared universe at like Boom or Image, I think they would certainly dethrone Marvel or both of them and DC.
I mean, Marvel's movies keep them up on the top. And I think no matter what their books do, people will be interested in those characters if the movies and the shows continue to be good and quality. If DC doesn't get their act together and stop relying on recutting old movies, then I think not that. And by the way, I actually like the Snyder Cut before I go into that. But at the same time, they need something fresh. They need something new. And they need to get people excited for their stuff. And besides Tynan doing Batman, which is good, there isn't a whole hell of a lot else that I really look forward to out of that Lunar box every week.
It seems like what DC has going is Batman, because Detective Comics is great, Batman is great. That's it.
And anything else he does, like Joker or Punchline, like that. That's it.
Yeah. And I like Justice League Dark because he started it off before Ram took it over. And Ram's doing fine. It's still good. It's not as good as it was through that first dozen issues, but that's the reason why I started reading Justice League Dark. Plus, I love all those characters. Swamp Thing's a carryover from my Vertigo days. I love Wonder Woman. I think she's the best character in the Trinity. It's just kind of the perfect series. Zatanna's a cool character. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with her. So that one's kind of a carryover from my old school reading days.
You're looking forward to seeing how they can ruin her again.
Yeah, I hope they don't. They better put her in those fishnets. I'll tell you that.
It's good to
know. Are you
talking
about Wonder Woman, or are you talking about Zatanna?
Both.
Oh yeah, well, geez. I mean, you take maybe the most compelling, beautiful actress in the world. This is Gal Gadot, and you take an already successful movie franchise and you flush it down the toilet by putting her in the costume for 7 total minutes in the movie and giving a terrible villain and focusing on the wrong villain for most of the movie. And it was not good. It just wasn't.
I mean, you mentioned reading so much books on New Comic Book Day, which is pretty dope, man. To know that you do. Us, we over here, we've been doing our comic book reviews now. I think it's like our 4th episode coming up next week, and we've been reading a lot too over here. And one of the things I enjoy reading now, like we was talking about indie books, man, and me and Thoro have been doing the indie spotlight for CBSI on Tuesdays.
Yep.
I find those indie books more interesting than what we have going on with DC or Marvel right now.
Me too.
Shout out to those independent publishings. When it comes to that, Source Point Press, Behemoth. All of them, they're doing great things.
AWA is doing great stuff right now too. The Upshot stuff, that stuff's great, with some pretty big names. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. Devil's Due still doing stuff. There's Antarctic Press has a couple of good titles in there. I mean, all the little guys have some title really worth reading right now.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I do have a question now that we're gonna transition to that next segment with this. What's the process of you picking out some covers for Cover Tune? Well, Cover Fire, it's New Comic Book Day, so that's kind of a giving, right? Because every Wednesday you just pick the best covers. But what's your process of Cover Tunes? Because it's not necessarily only a character. It's not necessarily publishing. It's different things, artists or whatever. What's the process that you go through to pick out these covers?
I decide about a week ahead of time how I'm going to attack. Like, there's sort of 4 different attacks I have. Am I going to just choose an artist and go with 5 or 10 books from that artist? Am I going to go with a specific character? Am I going to go with some other theme that often has to do with something that's currently relevant? So like next week's going to be, spoiler alert, it's going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier books. So, but I like to, but then the 4th version is I'm sick of the comic industry. I'm going to do something completely off kilter that no one gives a shit about but me, and I really don't care at the end of the day. So there's that. Some days I get those bitter days where that's the way I hit it, and that's kind of to a degree, that's what the Frank Thorne Red Sonja one was. Granted, it was also an homage to him having passed away, and it was time, and I was a huge fan. But I kind of didn't care if anybody read it at the end of the day. I thought that was content that deserved to be on the site, and I wanted it there. Whereas obviously next week's Falcon and Winter Soldier is relevant, and it's a little spec worthy, although I'm going to try to steer away from spec. But it's usually either an artist, a character, some relevant pop culture theme at the moment, or it's going to be just something that I care about myself. And I'm going to choose books. I put my money where my mouth is. Those are books that I either have bought, would buy, or recommend people buying because I just think they're great pieces of art. And I really don't care if they're worth 50 cents or if they're worth $50,000. It doesn't matter to me what they're worth.
Yeah. That is good to know that. It's good to know. And guys, y'all heard it here next week. Falcon Winter Soldier, guys. All right, so stay tuned for that. I'm interested to see which covers, because he don't pick the ratio variants. He picks the ones that, you can try to get still in your dollar bins, maybe.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, man. Before we get into Cover Tunes, I do want to say to the chat, guys, remember, stay tuned to the end, man. I am doing a giveaway, man. I am giving away these 2 books, Carnage, Black, White, and Blood, guys. Beautiful Patrick Gleason cover. All right. And then I'm also giving away this Djurjevic cover of Amazing Spider-Man 544. All right. Amazing cover here. Amazing cover.
I'm gonna give you a round of applause for even attempting to say Djurjevic or Djurjevic or however it's
Djurjevic. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. As long as I'm not saying Kazizu, we're good.
I don't know how to say it. Kazizu.